The conference room felt different that Tuesday morning. Victoria Chen, the CEO of Tech Vision Solutions, stood at the head of the long glass table with something unusual in her hand. A black card. Not just any card, but the kind that makes bank tellers do a double take. The kind that doesn't have a spending limit. 4 women sat around the table, confused and curious. They'd all received the same mysterious email the night before. Important meeting. 9 a.m. sharp. Come alone. No agenda. No explanation. Just those few words that had kept each of them awake, wondering what this could possibly be about. Patricia worked in marketing. She was 32, always dressed like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, and everyone knew she had her eyes on the next big promotion. She sat with her back straight, her notebook open, ready to impress. Next to her was Lisa, the sales manager who could sell ice to someone living at the North Pole. She was confident, maybe too confident sometimes, and she had a smile that made clients sign contracts without reading the fine print. She tapped her pen against the table, impatient to know what this was all about. Across from them sat Diana, quiet and reserved. She worked in accounting, the kind of person who kept her head down and did her job without making a fuss. She had a 7-year-old daughter at home and drove a car that was more rust than metal at this point. Her clothes were clean but old, and if you looked closely, you could see she'd sewn the hem of her skirt herself. The 4th woman was Kelly, who worked in human resources. She was the office favorite, always organizing charity runs and posting about causes on social media. She had a way of making everyone feel like they were her best friend. Victoria cleared her throat and the room went silent. She was 51 years old and had built her tech company from nothing. Started in a garage 20 years ago with borrowed money and a dream. Now the company was worth hundreds of millions, and Victoria was known for being unconventional. She didn't hire the way other companies did. She didn't promote based on what looked good on paper. I know you're all wondering why you're here, Victoria began, placing the black card on the table. The morning light caught it, making it gleam. I'm going to do something that might seem strange, but trust me, there's a method to this. The 4 women leaned forward. Even Diana, who usually tried to make herself invisible, couldn't help but look interested. I'm looking for someone to be the new vice president of operations, Victoria continued. It's a big job. Equity in the company. A real seat at the table where decisions get made. I've narrowed it down to the 4 of you. Patricia's eyes lit up. This was what she'd been working toward for years. Lisa smiled, already imagining herself with that title. Kelly straightened in her chair, ready to charm her way to the top. Diana just looked nervous, like she wasn't sure she was supposed to be in this room at all. But here's the thing, Victoria said, picking up the black card again. I'm not going to decide based on your resumes. I've read those already. I'm not going to make you do presentations or write proposals. I've seen enough PowerPoints to last a lifetime. She walked around the table slowly, making eye contact with each woman. Instead, I'm going to give each of you this card for 24 hours. You can spend whatever you want. There's no limit. Buy a car, book a vacation, go shopping, invest in something, whatever feels right to you. The only rule is that you have to actually use it. You can't just hold on to it and give it back unused. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning humming. You're joking, Patricia finally said, laughing nervously. I never joke about business, Victoria replied. This is completely voluntary. If you don't want to participate, that's fine. You'll still have your current job and there's no penalty. But if you do participate, you get 24 hours with unlimited spending power. After all 4 of you have had your turn, I'll make my decision about the promotion. This is legal, right? Lisa asked, always the one to think about the angles. Completely legal. My money, my card, my choice. Everything will be tracked, of course. I'll see every transaction. But I won't judge anything until all 4 of you have had your turn. Think of it as a test, but not the kind you can study for. Kelly raised her hand slightly. What exactly are you looking for? Victoria smiled. If I told you that, it wouldn't be a fair test, would it? I want to see what you do when nobody's telling you what to do, when there are no limits, when you can have anything you want. She pulled out a small box with 4 pieces of paper inside. Each of these has a day on it. Tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Whatever you pick is your day. You'll get the card at 8 a.m. and you have to return it by 8 a.m. the next morning. Diana's hand shook slightly as she reached for the box. She pulled out a piece of paper. Saturday. She nodded, folding the paper carefully. Patricia went next. Thursday. She smiled, already making plans in her head. Lisa drew Friday. Perfect, she said. That left Kelly with tomorrow, Wednesday. She looked excited, like she'd just won something. One more thing, Victoria said. Don't talk to each other about what you're planning to do. Don't ask the others what they did with their day. This is individual. After everyone has had their turn, we'll meet back here next Monday morning and I'll share my decision. Patricia couldn't help herself. But Victoria, how is this supposed to show you who deserves the promotion? Anyone can spend money. Victoria walked back to her chair and sat down. Patricia, I've been in business for 25 years. I've made millionaires and I've lost millions. I've hired hundreds of people and fired dozens more. And you know what I've learned? Resumes lie. Interviews lie. People tell you what you want to hear. But choices? Real choices when nobody's watching? Those tell the truth. She looked at each of them again. How you spend money when there's no limit tells me more about your values than any interview question ever could. It shows me what you care about, what you prioritize, who you are when you don't have to pretend or perform. Diana felt her stomach twist. She'd never had money to just spend freely. Every dollar was counted, budgeted, stretched as far as it could go. The idea of unlimited spending felt both exciting and terrifying. So, Victoria said, standing up, Kelly, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8. The rest of you enjoy your week and I'll see you on your assigned days. Any questions? Nobody spoke. What could they even ask? This was unlike anything any of them had ever experienced. As they filed out of the conference room, Patricia was already on her phone, probably looking at designer stores. Lisa was texting someone, that scheming smile on her face. Kelly was practically skipping, thrilled to be going first. Diana walked slowly back to her desk in the accounting department. She sat down in her worn office chair and stared at her computer screen without really seeing it. Saturday. She had 4 days to think about what she would do with 24 hours of unlimited money. 4 days to wonder what Victoria was really looking for. 4 days to worry that whatever she chose, it would be wrong. Her phone buzzed. A text from her daughter's school. The field trip permission slip needed to be signed, and there was a $20 fee. Diana looked at her bank account. $43 until payday on Friday. She'd have to skip lunch a few days this week to afford it. She signed the permission slip and made a note to pack extra peanut butter sandwiches from home. Then she went back to her spreadsheets, trying not to think about black cards and impossible tests and opportunities that felt too big for someone like her. But in the back of her mind, a tiny voice whispered, "What if?" Wednesday morning came fast. Kelly was the first to get the black card and she was ready. She'd barely slept, her mind racing with possibilities. At exactly 8 o'clock, Victoria handed her the card in the lobby. No ceremony, no speech. Just a simple exchange and a reminder that she had until 8 tomorrow morning. Kelly held the card like it was made of gold. She took a selfie with it right there in the parking lot, posted it to her Instagram story with the caption, "When your boss trusts you with everything." She didn't explain what it meant. Let people wonder. Her first stop was the luxury shopping district downtown. She'd driven past these stores 1,000 times, always looking but never buying. Today was different. Today she could walk in like she owned the place. The personal shopper at the designer boutique didn't even blink when Kelly said she wanted to see everything new. Dresses that cost more than most people's monthly rent, shoes that came in their own special boxes, a handbag that had a waiting list most people never got off of. Kelly tried on outfit after outfit, posting photos in the dressing room. She bought 3 dresses, 2 pairs of shoes, and that handbag. When she handed over the black card, the total was over $20,000. The sales associate smiled and thanked her, already thinking about her commission. But Kelly wasn't done. She had all day and she was just getting started. Lunch was at the most expensive restaurant in the city. The kind of place where they don't list prices on the menu, because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Kelly ordered the tasting menu with wine pairings. She took photos of every course, posting them one by one. The comments rolled in. "Living your best life. Wow, goals. You deserve it, queen." She felt like a celebrity, like she'd finally made it to where she always knew she belonged. After lunch, Kelly went to a spa that celebrities supposedly frequented. The full treatment: massage, facial, hairstyling, manicure, pedicure, 4 hours of being pampered while soft music played, and people in white uniforms treated her like royalty. Another $3,000. On her way out, feeling relaxed and glowing, Kelly stopped at an art gallery. She didn't know much about art, but she knew expensive art was something wealthy people bought. She walked through, nodding thoughtfully at paintings she didn't really understand, until a gallery worker approached. "This piece just came in," the woman said, gesturing to a large abstract painting that looked like someone had thrown paint at a canvas. "The artist is very up and coming. It's a steal at $15,000. Kelly looked at it. She didn't love it, but that wasn't the point. She could picture it in her apartment. Imagine showing it off to visitors. "I'll take it," she said, handing over the card. As the sun started to set, Kelly remembered the charity part of her image. She was known at work for always supporting causes, always posting about making a difference. She couldn't let this day pass without doing something that looked good. She donated $5,000 to a children's hospital, making sure to request a photo with the oversized check. She donated another $3,000 to an animal shelter, again with photos. She posted both on social media immediately. "Blessed to be able to give back," she wrote. "When you're fortunate, you have a responsibility to help others. It's our blessed charity, making a difference." The likes and comments poured in. Everyone loved Kelly's generous spirit. By the time she returned the card Thursday morning, Kelly had spent $48,000. She felt exhausted but exhilarated. She'd lived a day most people only dreamed about, and she had the photos to prove it. Thursday was Patricia's turn. She'd watched Kelly's social media blitz the day before and rolled her eyes. Too obvious, she thought. Too showy. Patricia had a different strategy. She started her day at a business networking breakfast at the most exclusive club in the city. The entry fee alone was $500. She worked the room like a professional, collecting business cards, making connections. These were the kind of people who could open doors. She picked up the tab for the entire breakfast, nearly $3,000, making sure everyone knew it. Then Patricia went shopping, but not for frivolous things. She bought a new laptop, the top-of-the-line model that she'd always wanted. "Investment in productivity," she told herself. She upgraded her phone. She bought business books, lots of them, from the fancy bookstore where they served coffee while you browsed. She enrolled in 3 online executive courses: leadership development, strategic management, financial planning for executives. Nearly $10,000 in courses she probably wouldn't finish. But they looked impressive on her LinkedIn profile, which she updated immediately. Patricia had lunch with a career coach, someone who charged $500 an hour to tell successful people how to be more successful. They talked strategy over expensive salads. The coach suggested Patricia invest in her brand, her image, her network. Patricia nodded along, feeling validated. The afternoon was spent at a luxury car dealership. Patricia didn't buy a car, but she did lease a high-end sedan for 2 years. $50,000 up front. She'd been driving a decent car, but this one screamed success. When she pulled into the parking lot tomorrow, everyone would notice. She ended her day at a wine tasting event for professionals, another networking opportunity. She bought a case of expensive wine, not because she particularly enjoyed wine, but because knowing about wine was something successful people did. Patricia returned the card Friday morning, having spent $68,000. She felt smart, strategic. She'd invested in her future, her career, her image. Not shallow like Kelly, not wasteful. Every purchase had a purpose, or at least that's what she told herself. Friday was Lisa's day, and she had it all figured out. She'd been in sales long enough to know that success was about relationships and leverage. She was going to use this day to build both. Lisa started at the electronics store, buying the latest tablet, a new laptop, a high-end camera, and accessories. Tools of the trade, she explained to the sales associate. Nearly $8,000 in technology. Then she made reservations at 5 different high-end restaurants over the next month, paying deposits for large groups. She'd invite clients, potential clients, people she wanted to impress. She spent $12,000 on deposits alone, but she saw it as investing in relationships that would bring in sales. Lisa went to a jewelry store and bought an expensive watch. Another $8,000. But it was a conversation starter, a status symbol that would make clients take her seriously. She spent the afternoon at a country club, paying for a 1-year membership. $25,000 to have access to golf courses, tennis courts, and most importantly, wealthy members who might need her company's services. Lisa was always thinking 3 steps ahead. She enrolled in a public speaking course knowing that confident speakers closed more deals. She bought tickets to exclusive industry conferences for the next year. She purchased subscriptions to premium business publications and databases. By evening, Lisa had spent another $10,000 on what she called business development resources, most of which would sit unused in her apartment. She finished her day by taking her entire sales team out for dinner and drinks. Top-shelf everything. She gave a toast about teamwork and success, picking up the $4,000 tab with Victoria's card. Lisa returned the card Saturday morning, having spent $72,000. She felt like a winner. She'd played the game perfectly, thinking like a businesswoman, investing in growth and relationships. Saturday morning, Diana woke up before her alarm. Her daughter, Sophie, was still asleep in the next room of their small apartment. Diana looked at the clock. 6 a.m. 2 more hours until she had to meet Victoria to get the card. She'd barely slept all week. While the other women had their days, Diana had been making lists, researching, changing her mind over and over. What would she do with unlimited money for a day? The obvious answer kept coming back. She'd pay off her debts, fix her car, buy Sophie new clothes that weren't from the thrift store, get herself something nice for once, maybe even put some in savings if that was allowed. But something held her back from that plan. Maybe it was knowing that Victoria would see every purchase. Maybe it was that little voice asking what would happen after this one day. The problems would still be there Monday morning. The struggles would continue. Diana made Sophie breakfast and dropped her at her grandmother's house. "Mom's got a work thing," she explained. Her mother-in-law looked at Diana's nervous face and squeezed her hand. "Whatever it is, you'll do fine, sweetheart." At 8 o'clock sharp, Diana stood in the parking lot at work. Victoria handed her the black card with a smile. "Take your time," Victoria said. "Really think about what matters." Diana sat in her car for 20 minutes just holding the card. She had a list in her purse, a carefully thought-out list. But suddenly, looking at that piece of paper, she realized something. This wasn't about being careful. This wasn't about planning every dollar like she normally had to. For once in her adult life, she had the power to make a real difference. Not just in her own life, but in other people's lives too. Diana started her car and drove, but not toward the shopping mall or the car dealership. She had somewhere else to be first, and time was running out on her 24 hours before it had barely begun. Diana's first stop was the hospital where Sophie had been treated 3 years ago. Her daughter had gotten very sick, spent a week in the pediatric ward, and even with insurance, the bills had crushed them. Diana had been paying $50 a month ever since, watching that number barely move. She still owed over $4,000, but that wasn't why she was there. She walked up to the billing department on the 3rd floor. A tired-looking woman behind the desk looked up. "Can I help you?" "I want to pay off some accounts," Diana said quietly. "Medical bills for families who are struggling." The woman blinked. "You want to pay other people's bills?" "Yes, families with kids, people who probably won't be able to pay." "Can you tell me who needs help the most?" The woman stared at Diana for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and called someone. 10 minutes later, Diana was sitting with a hospital administrator who looked like she'd seen everything and was surprised by nothing until today. "Most people come in here trying to negotiate their own bills down," the administrator said. "You're the first person I've ever met who wants to pay other people's bills. Can you do it without telling them who paid?" Diana asked. "I don't want recognition or anything. Just tell them their balance is 0. The administrator nodded slowly. "We can do that." "How much are you thinking?" Diana looked at the black card in her hand. "What if we paid off everything under $2,000? How many families would that help?" The administrator typed on her computer, her eyes widening. "That would clear 17 accounts. Mostly families with kids who had emergency visits, surgeries, ongoing treatments. Total would be about $21,000. Diana's hand shook as she handed over the card. She thought about those 17 families who would get letters saying their debt was forgiven. The relief they would feel. The weight lifted. "Make it happen," Diana said. Her next stop was Sophie's elementary school. She'd called ahead and asked to speak with the principal, Mrs. Patterson, who'd always been kind to Sophie even though they couldn't afford to buy supplies for every school fundraiser. "Diana, please sit," Mrs. Patterson said, gesturing to a chair in her office. "How can I help you?" I want to help the school, Diana said. I know the computer lab is ancient. I know the music program got cut. I know teachers buy supplies with their own money. Mrs. Patterson sighed. Budget cuts hit us hard this year. We're doing our best. What if money wasn't an issue? What would you fix first? The principal looked at Diana curiously. Is this hypothetical? Diana pulled out the black card. I have 24 hours to use this. I want to use some of it here. For the kids. Mrs. Patterson's professional composure cracked. Her eyes got watery. You're serious? Completely serious. Tell me what you need. They spent an hour going through the school's wish list. New computers for the lab, books for the library, instruments for the music program they'd had to cancel, art supplies, sports equipment, science lab materials, educational software subscriptions. The computers alone would be $12,000, Mrs. Patterson said. Everything on this list is probably $30,000 total. That's a lot of money, Diana. Do it, Diana said. All of it. And don't tell anyone where the money came from. Just say an anonymous donor. Mrs. Patterson hugged her. Actually hugged her. Which principals probably weren't supposed to do. The kids are going to be so excited. The teachers are going to cry. Diana's next stop was the community center in her neighborhood. She'd grown up going there, playing basketball in the gym, doing homework in the quiet room when things were chaotic at home. Now Sophie went there after school 3 days a week for the affordable childcare program. The director, Mr. Wilson, was organizing donated cans of food in the pantry when Diana found him. He was in his 60s, had run this place for 20 years, and Diana knew he worked for almost nothing because he believed in the community. Diana, good to see you. Sophie doing okay? She's great. Mr. Wilson, I want to ask you something. If you had money to improve things here, what would you do? He laughed, but it was tired. Dream scenario? We need a new roof. The gym floor is warped. The kitchen equipment is from the 90s. We have families who need food assistance, but our pantry is always running low. We have a waiting list for the after-school program because we don't have enough staff. He shook his head. But we make do. We always make do. What if you didn't have to just make do? Diana explained about the card, about the 24 hours. Mr. Wilson sat down on a box of canned goods looking stunned. I can't fix the roof, Diana said. That's probably too much. But what else? What would make the biggest difference right now? They made a plan. Diana paid for 3 months of salary for 2 new after-school staff members, which would clear the waiting list. $9,000. She stocked the food pantry with a massive order from the wholesale club, enough to feed families for months. $4,000. She bought new kitchen equipment so the center could expand its meal program. $6,000. She paid for repairs to the gym floor and replaced all the sports equipment. $5,000. $24,000, Mr. Wilson said, shaking his head in disbelief. Do you know how many lives you just changed? Diana's eyes were wet. I'm just glad I can help. By now it was early afternoon. Diana had spent about $65,000, and she hadn't bought a single thing for herself. She thought about stopping, calling it a day. But then she remembered the list in her purse. She drove to the job training center across town. She'd looked into their programs before, wishing she could afford to send some of the people she knew who were struggling to find work. Single parents, mostly like her. People who wanted to work but didn't have the skills or certifications employers wanted. The program cost $5,000 per person. It was 3 months of intensive training, job placement assistance, and support. Diana talked to the director and sponsored 5 people. She didn't know who they would be. The center would choose people who needed it most. $25,000. You're changing lives, the director told her. These 5 people will get jobs that can support their families. Their kids will have stability. It ripples out. Diana nodded, feeling the weight of it. The responsibility and the joy mixed together. She made one more stop before heading to the practical stuff. The church 3 blocks from her apartment had a community outreach program. They helped families with emergency needs, rent assistance when someone lost a job, utility bills when money was tight, bus passes for job interviews, small amounts of money that made a huge difference. Diana talked to Pastor Williams, who ran the program on donations that were always stretched too thin. She gave him $10,000 for the emergency fund. No restrictions, no conditions, just help people who needed it. God bless you, Diana, he said. I'm not religious, she admitted, but I know you help people. That's what matters. As the sun started getting low in the sky, Diana finally turned her attention to her own needs. She'd spent about $120,000, which seemed impossible. Money she couldn't even imagine. But the card still worked and she still had a few hours. She went to the furniture store. Not the expensive one. The regular one where normal people shopped. She bought a new couch to replace the one that sagged so badly she had back pain from sitting on it. She bought Sophie a real bed with a good mattress. Not the hand-me-down that was too small and lumpy. She bought a kitchen table that didn't wobble. Practical things. Things they needed. $3,000 total. At the clothing store, she bought Sophie new clothes. Not designer, just regular kids' clothes that fit properly and didn't have someone else's stains on them. She bought herself 2 new work outfits and a warm winter coat. Her current coat had a broken zipper she'd been meaning to fix for 2 years. Another $1,000 she got her car fixed. Really fixed, not just patch job fixed. New brakes, new tires, the mysterious engine light diagnosed and repaired. The mechanic called her with the total, sounding apologetic. "It's $1,800. I know that's a lot." "Just fix everything," Diana said. "Make it safe." Her final stop was the grocery store. She bought $200 worth of gift cards. Then she drove around her neighborhood, the area where she lived, where everyone was struggling in their own way. She knew which apartments had kids, which families were barely holding on. She left gift cards in mailboxes. $20 here, $30 there. No names, no notes. Just a little help from someone who understood. By the time she got home, it was dark. Sophie was already asleep at her grandmother's house. Diana sat in her car in the parking lot of her apartment building, suddenly exhausted. She looked at her phone. She hadn't posted anything on social media, hadn't taken any photos, hadn't told anyone what she was doing. For a moment, she panicked. Had she done this wrong? The other women had documented everything. They'd been visible, strategic, smart about their choices. Diana had just followed her heart, helped where she could, and barely thought about the test at all. She checked the card balance on the app Victoria had given her access to. $148,000 spent. In one day, she'd spent more money than she'd earned in the last 3 years combined, and almost none of it had been on herself. Diana went inside, showered, and fell into bed. She'd return the card in the morning, and then it would be over. Back to reality. Back to counting every dollar and stretching every paycheck. But tonight, 17 families didn't have medical debt. Sophie's school had computers and music. The community center could help more kids. 5 people would get job training. Dozens of families had grocery money. And Sophie had a real bed. Diana closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, she felt like maybe she'd done something that really mattered. Monday morning felt heavy. Diana walked into the office with her stomach in knots. She'd barely eaten breakfast, and Sophie had asked her 3 times if she was okay. "Just a big meeting at work," Diana had said, which was technically true but didn't come close to explaining the anxiety crawling through her chest. The conference room was exactly as it had been the week before. Same glass table, same uncomfortable chairs, same view of the parking lot where Diana's newly fixed car sat among much fancier vehicles. Patricia was already there, looking confident in a new outfit that probably cost more than Diana's monthly rent. Kelly sat across from her, perfectly made up, her new handbag positioned just so on the table. Lisa arrived a minute later wearing that expensive watch, checking her phone with the casual air of someone who had nothing to worry about. Diana took the empty seat at the end of the table, feeling like she was in the wrong place, like someone would realize there had been a mistake and ask her to leave. Victoria walked in at exactly 9 o'clock. She carried a folder and a laptop, and her face gave nothing away. She could have been about to fire them all or promote them all, and her expression would have been exactly the same. "Thank you all for coming," Victoria said, sitting down and opening her laptop. "I'm sure this week has been interesting for all of you." Kelly laughed, a practiced, perfect sound. "Interesting is one word for it." Victoria smiled slightly. "I'm going to walk through what each of you did with your day. I won't say who did what at first. I want you to listen and think about what these choices tell us about values, priorities, and leadership." She pulled up a spreadsheet on the screen behind her. 4 columns of numbers and descriptions. Person A, Victoria began, spent $48,000. Luxury shopping, expensive meals, spa treatments, art, and some charitable donations with photo opportunities. Every purchase was documented on social media with carefully chosen captions and hashtags. Kelly's face stayed neutral, but Diana saw her shoulders straighten just slightly. Proud. Person B spent $68,000. Executive courses, networking events, business books, technology, a luxury car lease, and professional development opportunities. Everything purchased had a justification tied to career advancement. Patricia nodded almost imperceptibly. Strategic, her expression said. Person C spent $72,000. More technology, restaurant deposits for future client entertainment, a country club membership, conference tickets, team dinner, all business development, relationship building, and networking opportunities. Lisa smiled slightly. Smart business, Diana could almost hear her thinking. Person D spent $148,000. The room went silent. Diana felt everyone turn to look at her. Of course it was her. Who else would have spent that much? Victoria continued, clicking through the spreadsheet. Medical bills paid for 17 families. School supplies and equipment. Community center improvements. Job training sponsorships. Church emergency fund donation. Furniture, clothing, and car repairs. Grocery gift cards distributed anonymously. The silence got heavier. Diana couldn't look at anyone. She stared at her hands folded in her lap. Person D spent twice as much as anyone else, Victoria said. But Person D spent less than 2% of it on themselves. Patricia spoke first. With all respect, Victoria, that's not strategic. That's just being nice. How does being nice qualify someone for vice president? That's not business thinking, Lisa added. That's charity work. Those are completely different skill sets. Kelly was quieter, but she said, I mean, it's sweet. It's really sweet. But giving money away isn't the same as knowing how to make money or manage a company. Diana felt her face get hot. They were saying out loud what she'd been thinking all weekend. That she'd done it wrong. That she'd wasted the opportunity. That she'd been stupid and naive and completely missed the point of the test. Victoria held up her hand and the room went quiet again. Let me tell you a story, she said, leaning back in her chair. 28 years ago, I was a single mother with a 3-year-old son. His father had left, and I was working 3 jobs trying to keep us fed and housed. One of those jobs was cleaning offices at night. Diana looked up. She'd never heard Victoria talk about this. I was exhausted all the time, behind on every bill. My car kept breaking down. My son wore clothes from the donation bin at the church. I felt like I was drowning, and every time I got my head above water, another wave would crash down. Victoria's voice was steady, but there was something in her eyes. Memory. Pain that had aged but never quite disappeared. One day my car died completely. Not just broke down, died. And I needed it to get to all 3 jobs. I needed it to take my son to daycare. Without that car, everything fell apart. I was sitting in the parking lot of the auto shop crying because the repair was $800 and I had $63 in my checking account. Patricia shifted in her seat, uncomfortable. This wasn't the Victoria they knew. The successful CEO, the millionaire. This was someone else. A woman came out of the shop. Someone I'd never met. She asked what was wrong, and I was so tired and so scared that I just told her. Everything, the jobs, the bills, the car, all of it. And you know what she did? No one answered. She paid for it, all of it. Pulled out her credit card and told the mechanic to fix my car and charge it to her. I tried to refuse. I tried to tell her I couldn't accept that. She said, "You're not accepting it. I'm giving it." There's a difference. Victoria looked at each of them. That woman saved my life. Not dramatically, not in a movie way, but really saved it. Because I kept my jobs. I kept my son in daycare. I kept food on the table. And eventually I built something bigger. I built this company. She clicked to a different screen, showing all 4 spending reports side by side. I did this test because I wanted to know who understood something essential about leadership. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's not about networking or strategies or personal branding. Those things matter, but they're not the foundation. Victoria stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot. Real leadership is about understanding that your success is meaningless if you don't lift others up with you. It's about recognizing that the company's strength comes from the well-being of everyone in it, not just the executives. She turned back to them. Kelly, your day was about image. Looking successful on social media. The charity donations were an afterthought, a photo opportunity. That tells me you care more about appearing generous than actually being generous. Kelly's face flushed red. Patricia, Your day was about justifying self-investment with business language. But buying a luxury car and expensive courses you'll never finish isn't strategy. It's ego dressed up in business casual. Patricia looked down at the table. Lisa, you were the most strategic of the three. Everything you bought theoretically had a business purpose. But it was all about acquiring access, building leverage, creating advantage for yourself. Not once did you think about the team, the community, or anyone who couldn't give you something in return. Lisa's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. Victoria sat back down. Diana spent her day thinking about other people. Not for credit, not for photos, not for networking opportunities. She saw needs and filled them. She had more money than she'd ever had in her life, and her first thought wasn't, what can I buy myself? It was, who can I help? Diana felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. That's the kind of person I want as vice president, Victoria said. Someone who understands that this company doesn't exist just to make money for shareholders. It exists to create value, to support families, to make our community stronger. Someone who won't forget where they came from. Someone who won't forget that business decisions affect real people with real lives. Patricia stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You're choosing someone for VP because they're nice? That's not how business works. Sit down, Patricia. The command in Victoria's voice was unmistakable. Patricia sat. This is exactly how business works when you're building something that lasts. I've seen companies led by people who only cared about profits and advancement. They make money for a while. Then they collapse because no one cares about them. Employees leave. Customers leave. The foundation crumbles. Victoria looked at Diana. You're getting the promotion. Vice President of Operations. Company equity. 6-figure salary. You start next month. The room spun slightly. Diana gripped the edge of the table. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes, of course. Thank you. Victoria smiled, really smiled for the first time in the meeting. Don't thank me. You earned it, Kelly stood up. So that's it? The rest of us just lose? No, Victoria said firmly. The rest of you learn, and you get opportunities to show me you've learned. She pulled out 3 folders, handing one to each of the other women. Patricia, you're enrolled in a 6-month executive coaching program. Not the superficial kind you bought last week. The real kind that challenges you to examine your values and leadership style. The company is paying for it, but you have to do the work. Patricia opened the folder, scanning the papers inside. She looked up, something shifting in her expression. Okay, I'll do it. Lisa, you're going to head up our new mentorship program. You'll spend the next year working directly with junior employees, helping them develop skills and advance their careers. You're good at building relationships. Let's direct that toward lifting others up instead of just advancing yourself. Lisa looked skeptical but nodded slowly. I can do that. Kelly, you're leading our community engagement initiatives. Real ones, not photo opportunities. You'll work with local organizations, figure out how our company can make an actual difference, and implement programs that matter. Use that social media skill for good. Kelly bit her lip. What if I mess it up? Then you mess it up and learn from it. That's how growth works. Victoria stood up. Meeting adjourned. Diana, stay please. The rest of you, I expect to see real change. Show me you understand what leadership actually means. The 3 women filed out. Patricia looked angry. Lisa looked thoughtful. Kelly looked like she was holding back tears. When the door closed, Victoria sat back down across from Diana. You okay? Diana laughed shakily. I think I'm in shock. That's normal. This is going to change your life. It already has, Diana whispered. Just knowing someone saw what I did and understood why I did it. That means everything. Victoria reached across the table and squeezed Diana's hand. You reminded me why I started this company. I'd forgotten somewhere along the way. Got caught up in growth metrics and market share. You brought me back to what matters. What happens now? Now we change how this company operates. We're going to build something that actually makes a difference, and you're going to help me figure out how. Diana thought about Sophie, about the new bed waiting at home, about the families whose medical bills had disappeared, about the kids at school who would have computers and music. I'm ready. Good, Victoria said. Because we have a lot of work to do. 3 months later, Diana walked into the office at 6:30 in the morning. She liked getting in early, before most people arrived, when the building was quiet and she could think. Vice President of Operations. The title still felt strange, like clothes that didn't quite fit yet, but might if she wore them long enough. Her office was on the executive floor now. Real walls instead of a cubicle. A door she could close. A window overlooking the city. Sophie had come to visit once and spent 20 minutes spinning in the leather chair, laughing. Diana set down her coffee and opened her laptop. The Community Partnership Program was launching today. 6 months of planning, meetings, budgets, and negotiations had led to this morning. She was nervous in a way she hadn't been since that Monday in the conference room when Victoria changed her life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Coffee before the big presentation. I'm already here. Diana found Patricia in the break room looking different somehow. Less polished, maybe. Or polished in a different way. More real. Hey, Patricia said, handing her a better cup of coffee than the one Diana had brought. Thought you could use the good stuff. Thanks. You're here early. Couldn't sleep. Too excited about today. Patricia sat down at one of the small tables. Can I tell you something? Of course. I hated you for like 2 weeks after that meeting. Patricia laughed, but it was self-aware, not mean. I was so angry. I thought Victoria was being ridiculous, choosing heart over strategy or whatever. I thought it was unfair. Diana sat down across from her. And now? Now I'm working with this executive coach, Dr. Reynolds, and she's kind of destroying me in the best way. Patricia wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. She made me list my accomplishments. Easy, right? I had a whole list. Then she asked me to list the people I'd helped accomplish things. People I'd mentored or supported or lifted up. What happened? I couldn't list anyone, Diana, not one person. My entire career has been about climbing, and I never once reached back to help anyone else climb with me. Patricia's eyes were shiny. That's not who I want to be. So who do you want to be? Someone more like you, honestly. Someone who thinks about others. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. Lisa appeared in the doorway. Morning. Am I interrupting? No, join us, Diana said. Can't sleep either. Too much coffee last night, working on mentorship program stuff. Lisa poured herself a cup and sat down. I matched 15 junior employees with senior mentors this month. We had our first group session last week. How did it go? Patricia asked. It was amazing. These kids, they're not kids, they're in their 20s, but they seem like kids to me. They're so hungry to learn. And the senior employees are loving it. Turns out people actually like helping each other when you give them a structure to do it in. Lisa looked at Diana. I never understood that before. I always saw other people as competition or resources. The mentorship thing is teaching me that when you help someone else succeed, it doesn't diminish your success. It multiplies it. Kelly rushed in looking frazzled. Sorry. Daycare drop-off took forever. Diana smiled. Kelly's daughter had started at the company's new on-site childcare program. Another one of the changes they'd implemented? You're fine. We're just having pre-launch jitters. Kelly poured coffee with shaky hands. I'm terrified I'm going to mess up the presentation. You're not, Diana said firmly. You've done amazing work with the community partnerships. The organizations love you. You've built real relationships. It's just so different from what I used to do, Kelly admitted. Before, it was all about looking like I cared. Taking photos, getting credit. Now I actually care, and it's scarier because it actually matters. Patricia reached over and squeezed Kelly's hand. You're going to be great. We all are. They sat there for a few minutes, the four of them, drinking coffee as the sun came up over the city. Diana thought about that day in the conference room, how competitive and separate they'd all been. How much had changed. Can I say something? Lisa asked. I know I was pretty awful during that whole test thing. I said some mean stuff about Diana's choices. It's okay, Diana started, but Lisa held up her hand. It's not okay. I was threatened because you showed me something I didn't want to see about myself, that I was selfish, that I'd built my whole career on using people instead of helping them. Lisa looked around the table. I'm sorry. To all of you, really. I'm trying to be better. We all are, Patricia said quietly. Victoria walked in, surprising them all. Good morning. Couldn't sleep either? They laughed, and Victoria poured herself coffee, joining them at the table. I want to tell you all something before we go into the big presentation, Victoria said. When I did that test with the black card, I wasn't sure what would happen. Part of me worried that all four of you would just spend money on yourselves, and I'd have to admit my theory about values and leadership was wrong. She looked at Diana. You restored my faith, not just in people, but in the idea that good business and good values can coexist. that we can build something profitable and meaningful. Victoria turned to the others. And you three have blown me away these past 3 months. The growth I've seen, the changes you've made, the way you've stepped into these new roles. I'm proud of all of you. Kelly wiped her eyes. Don't make me cry before the presentation. Too late for me, Patricia said, laughing and crying at the same time. At 9 o'clock, the conference room filled up. Board members, senior staff, and representatives from the community organizations they'd be partnering with. Diana stood at the front of the room with Kelly, Lisa, and Patricia beside her. A team, Diana pulled up the first slide. 3 months ago, our CEO challenged us to think differently about what this company could be. Not just a business that makes money, but a business that makes a difference. She clicked through slides showing the new programs, the on-site childcare center that helped working parents, the mentorship program connecting experienced employees with newer ones, the community partnerships providing job training, education support, and resources to neighborhoods that needed them. Kelly presented the community outreach initiatives. She spoke with genuine passion about the relationships they'd built, the families they were helping, the long-term vision for impact. No rehearsed corporate speak. Real stories about real people. Lisa talked about the mentorship program, sharing feedback from participants. One of our junior developers told me last week that his mentor helped him see a career path he'd never imagined. He said it changed everything for him. That's what this program is about, opening doors. Patricia presented the employee wellness initiatives. We surveyed the entire company about what would actually improve their lives. Not what we thought they needed, but what they told us they needed, and then we listened. She detailed the mental health support, financial planning resources, and flexible work arrangements they'd implemented. Diana brought it all together. These programs cost money. They're an investment, but they're already paying off. Employee retention is up. Productivity is up. Applications for open positions have tripled. People want to work for a company that cares about them and their community. She looked at Victoria, who was smiling. We're proving that you don't have to choose between profit and purpose. You can build a successful business that also builds successful people. The presentation ended to applause. Real applause, not the polite kind. The board members looked impressed. The community representatives looked hopeful. The employees looked proud. After the meeting, as people filtered out, Diana stood by the window looking down at the parking lot. Her old, newly fixed car was still down there, parked next to much fancier vehicles. She'd gotten multiple emails from dealerships offering her great deals on luxury cars. Now that she had the salary for it, she'd deleted them all. Victoria came to stand beside her. That was excellent. It was a team effort, it was. But you led it. That's what leadership is, Diana. Not doing everything yourself, but bringing out the best in others. Diana thought about the woman in the auto shop who'd paid to fix Victoria's car 28 years ago. About how one act of kindness had rippled forward through time, creating opportunities and changing lives. Can I ask you something? Diana said. Did you ever find that woman? The one who helped you? Victoria smiled sadly. I tried, but she'd moved away. And this was before social media made everyone findable. I never got to thank her properly. Maybe that's the point, though. She didn't do it for thanks. No, she did it because it was right, just like you did with that black card. You didn't think about recognition or reward. You just saw people who needed help and you helped them. Diana's phone buzzed. A text from Sophie's school. The kids are so excited about the new computers. Music class started again today. Thank you for everything. She showed Victoria the text. I never told them it was me. But Mrs. Patterson figured it out. Of course she did. Good deeds have a way of coming to light.